Hello everyone. So in this lecture what we are going to see is how we can plot a vector and visualize it in MATLAB. We have two-dimensional vectors as well as three-dimensional vectors, and we just want to plot them in a figure and we want to visualize them how they look. So first we will start with clearing the workspace as well as the command window. Now we have two vectors. The first vector is 3 5 and the second vector is 5 3. Both the vectors have the same elements and the origin is the point 0 0. Okay, so first of all I will just evaluate this selection so that we can get our vectors in the workspace. So this is the point 1 or the vector 1, which is 3 5 and it's a row vector. Point 2, it's a row vector again, 5 3, and point 0, this is the origin, 0 0. Now in order to plot the vectors, what we are doing here is we are making a collection of points. So first of all what we do is we are going to plot, let me comment it, plotting vector 1, or in this case it is point 1. So when we have to plot the vector, we make pair of the elements. So we can see that we are making a pair of the first element of the origin, that is pt0, and the first element of the vector, that is pt1, and then we make a pair of the second element of pt0, which is the origin here, and the second element of the vector, which is pt1 2. Now if we plot this, and the same is being done for the second vector also. So here what we are doing is we are plotting the second vector, and it is written as point 2. Okay, so now when we evaluate this particular section, we get this. So we get this here. What it is, this is a vector which is 3 times in x-axis and 5 times in y-axis. So you can see that it is vector point 1, which is 3 times in x-axis and 5 times in y-axis. This we can verify from the point also. This point is 3 and 5, and similarly this is the second vector. We can verify from the point that it is 5 and 3, and this is the origin 0 0. Now we close this vector. We come to the plotting of three-dimensional vector. So what is the difference between plotting two-dimensional vector and plotting three-dimensional vector? It is the plot command. In the case of plotting two-dimensional vector, we were using simply plot command and then giving the points which we want to plot. In case of plotting a three-dimensional vector, the command that we need to give is plot 3. So that is the only difference that we have to make, and rest all is going to be the same. So for doing that, we will clear the window. Now we run this command to get all our vectors into the workspace. So we evaluate that, and you can see that all these vectors are row vectors, and we can make them column vectors also. So these are 2 1 3, 3 1 2, 2 3 1, and this is the origin 0 0 0. Again, now to plot this, we are doing the same thing, except that we are using the plot 3 command. We are making the pair of the first element of the origin and the first element of the vector 1, then the second element of the origin and the second element of the vector 1, then after a comma we are having the third element of the vector of the origin and the third element of the vector. Okay, to keep all the vectors separate, we are using different colors. We are using R, G and B. Now if we run this particular section, we will get this plot. Okay, so we can increase the figure window and we can change the orientation also. So we can see that we have the 3 vectors. All 3 vectors are originating from the origin. So origin is this particular corner. The corner or the point where all the vectors are meeting, all 3 vectors are meeting, is the point which is the origin, and they all are radiating outwards. So we can simply rotate this particular figure and see what is the dimension of all the vectors. So that we can also do by simply checking in the xy axis or in the y-x axis, but in this case we are going to see the projections only. So this is the much better view of the vector. So we close this. So this is how we plot a vector in 2-dimensional vector and a 3-dimensional vector in MATLAB for visualization. So the only difference that we have in case of plotting a 2-dimensional vector is that we will use the plot command for plotting a 2-dimensional vector, and we will use plot3 command in case we want to plot a 3-dimensional vector. And the other point is that we need a vector which represents the origin in both the cases. So in this case we had only two vectors, point 1 and point 2, which need to be represented. But to represent these two vectors, we needed a vector which represents the origin, which is point 0, 0, 0. And the same is the case here also. In the vector, in the 3-dimensional space, we have three vectors that needs to be represented. But to represent them, we need a vector which represents the origin. So it is 0, 0, 0. And then we make pairs within the square brackets of the first element of origin and vector, second element of origin and vector, third element of origin and vector, in order to plot this. And that is how we do it. So that's it for today. Thank you.